Well, hey there, and welcome to CHW Studios, YouTube channel, and podcast. Today I'm going to be answering the top questions about playing drums. So recently on my Facebook, I posted a question, what's your top question about playing drums? And got some fun responses, some dumb responses, and I think we had some fun with it. And then I decided this would probably be helpful information for a lot of people. So let's just get started. Adam says, how? Question mark. LOL. So that's a fair question. If you've ever watched a drummer live before, like in church or at a concert, it looks pretty complicated. But something that I mentioned to him was, even if you can, not even, but if you can clap your hands, if you can stomp your feet, and if you can like hit your right knee with your right hand while you stomp your left foot, which I think you should try right now, or vice versa, then you can play drums. And that's not to say that you're going to be an expert in 5 days from doing that or anything. But I'm just saying if you have that much coordination, it is possible. And it takes it takes a lot of practice to get really good. But that's my answer for how. And Adam, I think you can do it. Next question. Daniel says, I know very little about playing instruments, so don't laugh at my ignorance, but do you all have notes that you read when you play? Or do you just play by the feel of the music, or is it both? Also a great question. And I said, it definitely can be both, but it's definitely probably an 80-20 split, Pareto principle or whatever that is, leaning heavily in favor of not reading music when you're playing live. I've done it before with jazz gigs where a lot of jazz musicians just have charts in front of them while they're playing. But even in church, as much as I've played in church over the past 17, gosh, not that long, maybe 15, 16 years, rarely have I had music in front of me. Again, maybe 20% of the time. So it's mostly, and something else I mentioned was that you might have some notes beforehand that you read and you practice with, but then majority of the time you're just going to be playing by the feel and by memory and having practiced beforehand. Next one, Nicholas says, can you, specifically you, meaning me, tell if a person will be a capable and or good drummer? So my answer to this is a little complicated. I would say yes, I can generally tell, but I can tell if they're going to get it quickly versus it's going to take them a lot of time spent to get good and to be able to play with songs and things like that. So with all that said, I think anyone can be a drummer. I just think it comes really naturally for some people, and then for others, it might take, a year of practice where it takes someone else 6 months. So that's a real thing, but kind of depends on what you put into it. But I do believe anyone can be a drummer. Let's see. Next one, Ricky says, why? Thank you, Ricky. You're very helpful. Ricky is so helpful that he posted again in quotations, why? And my response for that was glutton for punishment, aka carry a ton of stuff around forever. So why be a drummer? To get, buff, because you have to carry around all these drum set pieces. There's drums over here. I like to use the tiniest possible drum set though, like kick drum, snare drum, tom 2, probably crash, ride, hi-hats. So as minimal as possible, because I don't like carrying things around. So that was not really Ricky's question, but I answered something that I wanted to answer anyway. So let's see, what else do we have here? Josh King. I'm not going to say it. Yeah, someone named Josh, someone said, why bother? And I think he's just a Weezer fan. So whatever, Josh, get out of here. Travis posted a picture of his cat. That's fun. Christopher says, what is this thing called drums? So maybe you're here because you've never heard of drum before or drums before. Drums are things that you hit with sticks normally or with your hands to produce sound, normally to make people dance. All right. Britt says, how much do you have to lower the hi-hat stand before it becomes a low hat? There actually is a measurement for this. It has to be 1 foot off the ground, and then you can call it a low hat. Any higher than that, and it's still just the typical hi-hat, which is what you're seeing right here. This is very, very high. According to the definition, this is very high up. So that's a hi-hat. What else do we have here? How long is it cool to play off the tuning is beneath you from Peter? This is a funny question because I wouldn't say that I'm any kind of expert at tuning. It takes me a long time to get the sounds that I want. Part of that is that every drum is different, and part of that is just a simple fact that I don't like spending money most of the time, and drum heads can get pretty expensive, especially like here in my teaching studio. I've got 2 drum sets, 4 pieces each. So to outfit an entire drum set with new drum heads would cost, gosh, it's too much money, like close to $200 maybe. Whereas guitar strings are like between $5 and $25. So also didn't really answer your question, Peter, but I would say, how long is it cool to play off the tuning is beneath you? Probably 15 years. So, all right, next one from Aaron. What's your top question about playing drums? My top question about playing drums is, how cool is it really to play drums? Are drummers actually cool anymore? Because I think back in the 60s, 70s, maybe even before that, drummers were very cool. Drummers in the 80s and 90s, it declined for sure. So I don't know. How cool is it to be a drummer these days, especially since so many things are electronic? But if you've ever seen like a live video of Billie Eilish, she has live drummer, and he's got like acoustic drums, it looks like, and then also electronic. So he seems pretty cool. That would be my top question about drums or about playing drums is, how cool are you if you play drums? Next one, Evan. Is it hard? So, and again, remember the question here is, my initial question was, what is your top question about playing drums? He said, is it hard? So I told him drum heads are generally pretty pliable. Like you can kind of push into them a little bit. They are, for the most part, hard to break. So I wouldn't say they're hard, but the sticks that you hit them with right here, those are pretty hard. If they're maple, they're a little softer. If they're hickory, then they're like the hardest kind of wood I think I've used in a drumstick. So, all right, Steven says, what's worse, bad tuning or bad sounding cymbals? This is a good question because I've heard cymbals that people deem bad sound really good on a recording. Like a $60 cymbal sound like it's a $200 or $300 or $400 cymbal. So I think I would say bad tuning, but it's kind of the same thing. If you have a good sound engineer, either live or in the studio, you can make bad tuning sound okay, and you can make bad sounding cymbals also sound okay. I would probably go with bad tuning is worse, because most cymbals sound bad to me. I just don't like cymbals. They're so loud. So get your Moon Gels. He actually said later, put your Moon Gels on your crash cymbal. So highly recommend. Where am I looking? I hope I've been looking in the right spot on the camera this whole time. I don't ever use the front facing, which I am today. I usually use the other side and just like frame up the shot. It's on a phone, by the way. iPhone. Fancy. Next one, we've got Felicia. She says, one drop, comma, where does the one go? So where does the one go in a one drop pattern, which is a reggae thing? I actually learned that from Felicia's husband, which is funny. He's just a great instrumentalist named John. Trying to keep everybody anonymous here, except I accidentally said Josh King, and I'm not going to edit any of this because, what do I care? Anyway, the one drop, where does the one go? I think it disappears. Like it drops completely. So you don't actually have it anymore. That's not to say that you only have 2, 3, and 4, because that would be like the new 1, 2, 3. Like if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry, and then you drop the 1, then the 2, 3, 4 just becomes your new 1, 2, 3. So I'd say in the one drop, you just lose it completely. Justin says, can you post a blast beat tutorial? Thanks. I really like that, as old as Justin is, he posted this like a 5-year-old, went ahead and said thanks, like I'm just going to do it, no questions asked. And then Sean gets on here and says, I second this request. So Justin and Sean, the answer is yes. Here's the thing. They think I'm good at blast beats, and I'm not like some crazy, quick double kick, Norwegian style blasting drummer. So I can definitely tell you what I know, but that might be a fairly short video. And when I say short, I mean the length of like a grindcore style song. So 10 seconds, maybe. We'll go 30. I'll figure that out later. Okay, Carl says, how did Floor Tom get his nickname? I do not know, because this Tom, which I call Floor Tom sometimes, first of all, that's not his name. His name is Pearl Masters. And he's not on the floor. He's suspended. So Floor Tom really doesn't make sense for this one. I'll have to look into that. We'll dig into it maybe together in the future. Vicky says, which drum do I hit first after I count 1, 2, 3, 4? The answer to that question is always the same unless you're doing the one drop that Felicia mentioned earlier. It's the bass drum. It's the bass drum every time. Let's see. Jonathan says, why is it called a kick drum? You don't kick it? ? You really stomp on the pedal. Why isn't it called a stomp drum? Now, he was joking, kind of, but this is a good question because you don't actually kick the kick drum. I was also told that I sound Southern when I say kick at a sound check one time. But it is a bass drum too, so I mean, just call it a bass drum. If you have qualms with stomp drum or kick drum, I think stomp drum is when you like leather strap a metal trash can to your feet and then you like walk around with it and you beat it with sticks. That's a stomp drum. And lastly, this is also from Jonathan, but seriously, how do you start playing / practicing? With guitar, you start with learning chords. Debatable. Do you start learning specific drum beats / rhythms and build from there? The answer is definitely yes. When I teach, I like to start with drum beats. Like if you've ever heard of AC/DC, maybe you haven't, they're from Australia. They're a rock band that uses some pretty simple beats for the most part, just like a doom, doom, da, doom, doom, da, da. So whenever I'm teaching, whether it's a 3, 4, 5-year-old or a 20, 30-year-old who's never played before, I always start with that beat. So go look up the song Back in Black. I'm not an affiliate, or they are not my affiliate. I'm a little confused on how affiliates work, but neither of us get paid for me saying Back in Black from AC/DC. But yes, I do start with some beats and then go rudiments later because rudiments are really freaking boring. Beats first, get people playing along with a song. Just like how he's saying with guitar, you start by learning chords. Chords allow you to play songs. Wouldn't necessarily start with like solo material or even scales because I think solo material might be too advanced on a guitar. Scales might be too boring. In a similar way, rudiments are just a little boring on drums. So yeah, beats and just combinations. Like I said at the very beginning, if you can pat your right leg, but stomp with your left foot, and then vice versa, pat your left knee with your left hand, stomp with your right foot, you can play drums, at least very slowly. Put a stick in your hand, get that kick drum, bass drum, and then you can do a blast beat. as slow as you want. So that's it for this video. Thank you for joining video and podcast, by the way. I'm new to this, so anyway, you can do all the things you normally do with YouTube videos and podcasts. You've probably heard them before, but thank you for watching. And if you have any further questions, I would love for you to comment. You can also email me at chwstudios865@gmail.com, and I will get back with you. Bye.